All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. We're going to learn today. We are going to learn today. Oh, I forgot to update the thumbnail. Hold on a sec. Let me change the thumbnail on the live. Which is the portrait? That one. So edit. Title and description. No, cancel. Edit. Thumbnail. Uh-oh. Download. Here we go. There we go. We'll update that and save that. Let's get this show going, ladies and gentlemen. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Purple and Gold Bar Show. I am your host, Supreme Overlord, aka Mr. AI Man 3000, aka Mr. Purple and Gold Bars at your service. Sorry about that. I had a little bit of a brain fart there, but we're going to get right into this live here. We have our week 15 picks to go over, and then we're going to do our live recalculation of the power rankings because at this point, we're starting to get down to where it's only going to be like a 5-minute, 3, 5, 6-minute live, and instead of trying to drag on the power rankings, we'll just finish it the stream with the live recalculation, giving you guys my thoughts and opinions on the rankings in the NFL here. So before we get started, let's get right into it and let's start the show. There you have it, guys. Welcome back to the Purple and Gold Bar Show. We are going to get right into these weekly picks because we got Thursday night football today. We got Falcons versus Buccaneers at home in Tampa Bay for the Bucs. So there's a slight advantage there for the Buccaneers, but, Emeka Mbuka hasn't really been as consistent and as dynamic as he was in the first, few games of the season. If I'm not mistaken, since that 160-plus yard game against the Seahawks, he's been mediocre, right? So, but it's expected. When you got Mike Evans on the sideline, you don't got your number one kind of taking a lot of that focus away from you. It makes it even harder, especially for a rookie. And rookies struggle, guys. So it's totally be expected. I'm not thinking that Emeka Mbuka is, a bust or a scrub or nothing like that. He's just young and learning, right? So valuable lessons for him, all part of this middle of the season. But Mike Evans is potentially going to come back. He has been trending towards getting back on the field this weekend. So that might play a small factor, even if he is just a decoy. But let's be real. I think being this team, these two, being this game being a divisional matchup, we're gonna look. I think it's gonna be a little bit closer than people will give credit. I know the Falcons have definitely looked bad at times, and of course they have. They're, like I said, similar to my team, just with completely different problems and things that they've had to deal with in their development, right? Trying to transition into Michael Penix and whatnot, injuries playing a big factor. But they're a roller coaster team right now, ups and downs, flashes, more growing pains, and just pain in general. But let's not forget that to have two of the most dynamic running backs in the league, and at any point they can really make it difficult. They get ahead on an early lead here, and they start running the ball and killing the clock. They could very well steal a game here. So, an interesting game, an interesting matchup. We know that Baker Mayfield can put on the cape and try to do everything that he can to win a game. But will his running game be healthy enough? Will his wide receivers do more than enough to win the game? And will the defense, that stingy, underrated defense, come up big in today's game? Not entirely sure. I feel like this one is a bit of a coin flip. I think for the majority, I think a lot of people are going to be giving the credit to the Buccaneers here on this one. And my in maybe my fandom and my love for Baker Mayfield as a player and one of my favorite players in general, I think that that might be clouding my judgment here as well as everybody else's, where, it might be more of like a 60-40%. But when I really kind of strip away my bias and strip everything away, I feel like this is a bit of a bit of a coin flip here for you guys. So um, let's flip that metaphorical coin here. Let's flip that metaphorical coin here and let's figure it out. I'm gonna go ahead and pick the Bucks in a very, very slow or methodical game. I think it's going to be slow pace. I think it's going to be a lot lower scoring than people are going to give credit. And it just might come down to one of those heroic moments where Baker Mayfield has control of the ball at the end of the fourth quarter, coming away with either a field goal or a touchdown to steal the win. So give me Buccaneers. I'm going to gamble with my friend, one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league, Baker Mayfield. So moving on to the next game, we got the Browns versus the Bears. Ooh, this game is a lot more interesting than people are gonna give credit. I feel like the majority, Vegas, everybody's gonna be thinking, "Oh, this is gonna be such an easy walk in the park for the Bears." But let's be real, guys. Caleb Williams struggles against good defense, and the Browns, if anything, they have a great defense. So I think this game is going to be a lot closer. And I think because of the ability that this defense has to put pressure on Caleb Williams in this offense, I think as a result, it's going to be a much, much closer game than anyone is going to give credit. I don't think this is a 7-point game or a 10-point game. I'm not entirely sure what the money line is on this one or the points is, but I would not give the Bears more than 3 points if they win. I wouldn't put more than 3 points on the Browns to win. Another coin flip here, and I feel like it's definitely like a 55-45%, so leaning towards the Bears. So it's a comfortable margin here for the Bears. I feel like they still, probabilities wise, still have the best chance to win this game, but every single week I like to pick an upset win in comparison to the rest of the picks that I make. Ooh, am I going to make this one be the one that I pick the upset on? Think about this rationally, okay? We got the Browns' stellar defense. We got their offense turning a corner. They may not be, putting up 27, 29 points like they did last week against another mediocre team. I think it's going to be a lot lower scoring game. I think it's going to be closer to, a race to 17 maybe. But who's going to get there first? You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to gamble on Shedeur Sanders. I like the kid, and this is one of those types of games that if he comes away with a win, especially a convincing win here, I think he's going to turn the page on the narrative that has been building throughout the season. So let's call this one an upset, guys. We're going to pick the Browns in a 3-point victory, all due to the heroics of Shedeur Sanders. Let's go, guys. Make me proud. Moving on to the Ravens versus Bengals. Ooh-wee. Lucas, how do your Ravens look now, buddy? I thought you guys were on the way to the Super Bowl. I thought you guys were a good team. According to your delusions, the Ravens should have won out, and they should be easily favored to win at least 1 or 2, maybe even make the Super Bowl based on your delusions, right? Oh, how the mighty have fallen. But keeping all that bias and all that trash talking aside, let's look at this game the way that it should be, okay? Both teams are flawed defensively, okay? Everybody wanted to tell me, oh, the Ravens' defense is all fixed. They're so good. Did you see what they did against the Dolphins? I'm like, yeah, it was the Dolphins. It's nothing special. What are you talking about? So what? They started to look a little bit better, but they're not a good defense still. Did you forget the first part of the season? That just magically goes away because they beat some, 2 or 3 bad teams? Come on, guys. Let's be real here. Bengals defense, it is no secret that the Bengals defense is atrocious. They don't have much of anything. They are mediocre at best, okay? But 1 or 2 or 3 plays a game, they might be able to come up with something special. I don't know if it's going to be a turnover or anything, but they might be able to create that 3-and-out situation that will allow Joe Burrow to cook here. I think this is a little bit closer to the same situation as last week where I was like, Ravens Steelers are probably really, really close. I gave the slight edge to Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, but I think the slight edge went to the Steelers, especially after we watched the game and how it went down. I think the Steelers reminded people that if you put it on Lamar Jackson, he does not have the accuracy to throw the back shoulder. He doesn't throw into coverage. He can't lead his receivers properly. The dominance of that offense comes from the ingenuity of their play caller and their play design. Todd Monken, if I'm not mistaken, he is a brilliant coordinator and play designer. He understands the weaknesses of Lamar and he understands his strengths. So he always build plays in order to, hide those weaknesses. That's why you see a lot of these weird concepts where all of a sudden somebody breaks out loose and Lamar Jackson can hit a wide open receiver like nobody's business, okay? But when you put it on him and he has to throw from the pocket and be a pocket quarterback, he just can't do it, okay? He just does not have the accuracy. He does not have the decision-making process. We saw what happened with the interception last week. Very bad, boneheaded decision there. And just didn't throw a good ball on top of that. Maybe a better quarterback might have been able to make something out of that, but it's just not him. They're one of my favorite teams when it comes to the regular season. I know they're regular season merchants, and I love that about them because they give me some really fun games to watch in the regular season. But we're coming up and we're ramping up to playoff football here, and this is when they start to struggle. And when we look at the Bengals, they may not have that defense, but what they do have is they have an offense that can really light you up. And when you have a defense that is struggling as bad as the Ravens defense, this might not be as close as people give credit to. I think a lot of people are banking on the Ravens, but I'm going to go ahead and take Joe Burrow here and his ability to create a shootout. And if he can get if he can get a big enough lead, it's going to put all the pressure on Lamar, and he's not going to be able to run the ball. Derrick Henry will just get eliminated because it's just got to throw the ball. And make it an easy game for this mediocre Bengals defense to kind of play. When they become one-dimensional, even a mediocre defense in the NFL can do something against that. So I'm going to give the Bengals the nod here. Not 3 points. I'm going to say 7 points from the Bengals here. Interesting matchup. Moving on to the Cardinals versus the Texans. Ooh, this is going to be a good one here. Is this one of those games where I could potentially pick the upset here? The Texans have a phenomenal defense. Let's be real. But C.J. Stroud is just emerging from that sophomore slump. He is starting to do some of the things that we were seeing him do in year one. Maybe that after that game where my Minnesota Vikings absolutely destroyed him and he got benched, that doubt crept in and it never left. Maybe he's starting to believe in himself again. But that is the perfect situation for these Cardinals. They have a stingy defense. I've been saying all year that their defense is the best part of their whole team. And when a team plays harder for your backup and Jacoby Brissett is the type of quarterback to not try to be like Kyler Murray where it's like, I'm just going to put on the cape on regardless of the situation. I'm going to be the reason to win. He does the opposite, where he just wants to make sure that he makes the right play to get what needs to be done. Is this an upset kind of game? Unfortunately, I've already taken my one upset for the week here, so I'm not going to take this upset. I'm going to take the Texans in an ugly win. I think the Cardinals are going to make a game out of it. Let's be real here. I don't think it's going to be a blowout or a runaway game for the Texans. I think it's going to be a slap down, drag them out game here, okay? But I think the Texans just have more than just a little bit. I think they have a lot more than the Cardinals have, even though the Cardinals are going to do a really good job of creating an ugly game. But I think it's just going to be too little, especially being at Texans, in the Texans stadium. It's going to be a little bit harder for them in those early, possessions, those few first drives when the crowd is the loudest. That's when I expect the Cardinals to make some mistakes and where the Texans will look to capitalize and then play with the lead, right? So Picking the Texans on that one. Moving on to Jets Jaguars. Ooh-wee. Now, I've been saying I really like these Jets, and I definitely will say I'm going to co-sign on this because I've been saying it week after week after week. I think Aaron Glenn was the right job for these Jets team, for this Jets organization. I think he's doing all the right things. He's positioned himself to do a complete rebuild here. They've got a ton of draft capital. It's going to be a fun game. Although I think the Jaguars just have way more when it comes to continuity, a better culture, a better scheme, the better quarterback, the better team overall. But when it comes to these Jets, like I've been saying, I know they only have 1 or 2 or 3 pieces out of this 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle that they're putting together. But when I look at these pieces, when I've seen a couple of these drives, a couple of these games, and I go, ooh, this isn't normal Jets football here. There might be something different coming in the future. I look at this team that might be something to be worried about, not next year, not the year after, but going from then on, you might start being like, whoa, this Jets defense, this supporting cast looks pretty good. They might be ready to carry the load on a developmental or development year with a rookie quarterback. And if they get lucky and they pick that one rookie quarterback that's an outlier, ooh, they could be off and running, guys. So don't sleep on the Jets in a few years here. But today, on Sunday, the Jaguars just have a little bit too much, okay? Trevor Lawrence has not been putting up all-star numbers, top-tier numbers like that. But you know what? It's to be expected when you get, you have system after system that's been brought in, and you kind of get all jumbled in the head, and then you got a good coach like Liam Cohen come in, bringing in a new culture, bringing in a new system, that Mike Shanahan system, and it starts to look more and more like that system week to week. I've been saying every single week that this team reminds me of the Vikings, old school Commanders with Kirk Cousins, the 49ers, and the Rams. It's just that same, they're all the same tree, right? It's just his twist on it. And as this team keeps going through the season, they've become better and better, and they've been making less mental mistakes and looking like a team to beat. So watch out for these Jaguars, guys. They can catch someone on off guard here. They might be able to make a little bit of a run, but I think once they face a team, especially in the playoffs, that is ready for all situations and are ready to overcome adversity, those are the situations where they're just not going to be prepared for. So I'm curious to see how the Jaguars do, and I'm excited to see what they do next year and the year after, because this might be one of the next good teams, right? But this week for sure, I'm going to go ahead and take the Jaguars in an ugly win, something like 27 to like 14, 27 to 12, something like that. The Jets might just be kicking field goals, but Tyrod Taylor behind there looks like a really fun team to watch. I think this is going to be a better game than people will give credit. Moving on to the Chargers versus the Chiefs. I've been burnt a little bit with these Chiefs over the last few weeks because I've been banking on their experience, their wily vets, their coaching, so that when there are those situations in the game where in history they've been known to just always make the right decision, Patrick Mahomes always makes the right call, makes the right pass, they're able to overcome and go move past all the bad situations that have come before them in the game. They just have not been able to do it. The last 3 or 4 weeks I've been saying this is where it comes down to. Late in the game, certain situational football, they're going to just do what they can, and they're going to be that wily team that kind of steals one here, but they just have not been able to do it all season. And like I said before the season started, I said this is the season where the Chiefs are finally going to look beatable. And man, they do. Now, the Chargers are missing Joe Alt, okay? So their offensive line continuity is all the way up and down, okay? When you bring a replacement tackle to bring him in, especially a backup, someone that hasn't had success like Joe Alt or any other starting tackle in the league, you're going to get some really good games. You're going to get some really bad games. You're going to get some mediocre games, some slightly below average and some slightly above average, okay? And I think all he needs to do is be average. Nothing more, nothing less. And I think that the Chargers offense, the way that Justin Herbert is playing, the way that this team is just rallying around Harbaugh and everybody else, I think they're just going to have way more energy, way more drive to get this win. I know the Chiefs are put up against the wall here. They're basically have a extremely small chance of making the playoffs. I just cannot in good conscience, even though they're an Arrowhead. Last week I was like, it's at Arrowhead. That's got to be the turning factor, right? They'll make the right call, and the home field advantage might be the difference, right? It just hasn't been what it's been in the past, and I just can't in good conscience, even though Joe Alt is out, I can't pick the Chiefs in this game. The Chargers just have way too much offensive firepower to be able to hang around, because if the Chargers get rolling, man, there's Patrick Mahomes and these Chiefs cannot overcome a massive deficit, and these Chargers can definitely put one up there. So I'm going to go ahead with the Chargers winning with at least 10 points against these Chiefs. Unreal to say, huh? Moving on to one of the games of the week. I think this is going to be the game of the week, guys. Let's be real. I think this is going to be a back and forth. This is going to be a shootout. This is going to be a heck of a fun game, okay? Now, the Bills have a spotty defense, but so do the Patriots. At times, they look great, and at times, they look bad, exactly the same way as this Bills defense looks as well. Now, when we look at their offense, both teams have had some suspect losses here, okay? And sometimes, Josh Allen doesn't look like Josh Allen, and at times Drake May doesn't look like we've become to know who he is, okay? But both guys have the ability to put the cape on. They're willing to do everything in their power to kind of bring the win home. So I think this is going to be one of those games where it's just going to be a high-scoring slobber knocker, guys. It's going to be a fantastic game. I think we're going to see video game numbers from both the Patriots offense and the Bills offense, right? Now it's going to come down to these second half situations, okay? Now, this is where the Patriots scare me a little bit here. Because like I was saying a couple of weeks ago, I was like, I'm excited for this team. I picked this team to be one of the teams that's going to turn some massive heads this season. And by far have they done that, okay? But I said it's all fine and dandy in the start of the season, in the middle of the season, but once playoff football starts happening, playoff-like games start to happen, there are going to be situations where they're going to get punched in the mouth and they're just not going to have that experience, okay? Now, does that mean that Drake May doesn't have that willpower, that drive to win, to overcome, despite all odds? Absolutely, he does. We know Josh Allen has that as well. But the difference is that the Bills have gone through those heartbreaks in the last couple of years, okay? They've been put in situations, whether it's late in the season or in the playoffs, where they just make a boneheaded decision or they get beat with experience, right? And I think that's what's going to lead to the slight edge to the Bills here. I think this is definitely one of those games. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots won this. I would not be surprised if the Bills won this. I just don't think it's going to be a massive blowout for either team. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I wouldn't be surprised if both teams put 50 up on this on this Sunday, okay? It might just be 54-50. I don't know. But I am going to have to pick Josh Allen and the Bills. I think that little bit of experience, and maybe that fire that's lit under their butt after being beat by them at home in an embarrassing loss earlier in the season, might be the thing that happens, okay? Now, there's a thing the phenomenon that I don't really see too many people talking about when it comes to mainstream sports, where it's very difficult to beat a team 3 times in a row. Okay, so 2 times in the same division, and then if you face them in the playoffs, right? If this goes the way that it's gone historically, usually, for the most part, predominantly, we see teams split here. And as a result, in the playoffs, usually the underdog, the team that was, in this case, the Patriots, tend to come on top in the playoffs. So this might be a blessing in disguise for these Patriots. Maybe it's a loss here might, put a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, might humble themselves a little bit and maybe work a little bit harder so that they don't let that happen again in the playoffs. And when their opportunity comes, they're going to take it. So I'm going to call it. I'm going to call the Bills over the Patriots in a 3-point victory. It might even be like, it might even come down to something ridiculous, man. Like, I have no idea here. But I'm going to pick the Bills here over the Patriots on the 1 o'clock game. Moving on to the Commanders versus the Giants. Two awful teams for two different reasons. No, actually, both the same reason. Both have just been obliterated with injuries here. Now, if both teams, let's say, had started with one, Jackson Dart and Malik Neighbors and Cam Scatterbo, and they played the entire season without injury, I wholeheartedly believe that this Giants team is a 10-win team with that raw talent. DeMarcus Lawrence, Sexy Dexy. They got Burns. They got a wily defense. They got their a great offensive line. I think they totally have the potential, the raw talent to be a 10-win team. All they have been missing, like I said after last season, I've been saying, guys, they're just directionless. They don't have someone to tell them how to overcome. Brian Dable was not it, right? And now when we look at the Commanders and we say, hey, what if Jaden Daniels didn't get injured all season? And how about their defense didn't get decimated, right? I think we're looking at the same team, a 10-win team, because when Jaden Daniels has played, he has, struggled a little bit. Sometimes when the target gets put on your back, there's tape on you. You don't perform like you did the previous year, especially in a rookie campaign like Jaden Daniels. But I didn't see him regressing like CJ Stroud. Injuries have totally derailed that, and we have no idea here. But I just don't think Jaden Daniels is playing. Like I said last week, but then they played him. Idiots, man. Did you guys forget that RG3 was on your team? Come on now. Is there literally no one on that organization that remembers that? Keep this man off the field. He's your freaking future. It's going to be Marcus Mariota versus Jackson Dart in a mediocre team. Two mediocre teams going at it. It's going to be a lot, because of that, it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be a lot higher score than people give credit. I don't think it's going to be in the high 30s, 40s, or anything like that, but high 20s, low 30s, easily. I could easily see the Commanders winning 34-27. I can see the Giants winning the same. But because it's a coin flip, we're going to flip that metaphorical coin flip again. And we're going to pick the Giants here, ladies and gentlemen, because I like what they're doing here. But you never know. Maybe they decide to just tank and throw and put a wrench in my prediction here. But I am going to take the Giants in this over the Commanders. What is going on, Noobster? Moving on to the Raiders versus the Eagles. Ooh, this is a game that I really want to pick the upset here. I really want to pick the Raiders to beat the Eagles, because this Eagles offense is just absolutely hot garbage. And I know why. When you move in and you have a complete rookie play caller come in and you don't have an understanding of the philosophy that the previous play caller had, and you don't know what this team's strengths are, you don't know how to call plays properly. So that's a massive factor. On top of being a rookie play caller, it makes it difficult to overcome the things that you don't know. And I think it's just growing pains. So I'm not going to go throw the baby out with the bathwater and call the Eagles team completely atrocious or put it all on the players. I think there's a big factor here that it's the growing pains of the play calling, because sometimes I've been sitting here watching these games and I'm like, what is their play caller thinking? I'd love to just pick his brain and be like, what were you thinking on that play there? Because to me, this is what I thought, and I'm just a layman. And you went and did this and then caused that turnover, caused that, loss and downs or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Interesting here. I would really love to watch Michael Myers run havoc on these Eagles, but that defense is still pretty good. The Raiders' defense is not the greatest, so this is a bit of a tune-up game for the Eagles. If they can just, keep it simple, stupid, and they could easily go ahead and come away with an easy victory over these Raiders, even though I'd really, really want to pick the upset here. I am going to pick the Eagles to win this in an ugly game, a closer game than people give credit, probably a race to 21 here. I'm going to call it 21-14 Eagles. Moving on to the 425 games, the afternoon window. We got the Broncos versus the Packers. Ooh, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we got strength versus strength. Okay, both teams got great defense. Both offenses have been absolutely a conundrum all season. You know, a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, you know, the Packers offense, they're top tier. Their Jordan Love is a Super Bowl caliber quarterback." And then you watch him play and you go, "Really? When you're making rookie mistakes out here and you're making backup quarterback mistakes out here, how are you supposed to be an all-time Super Bowl quarterback? Especially if you never made it to one." But the Broncos have also had their fair share of woes on offense, right? So I think this is going to be an ugly game. It's going to be a defensive classic here. But I am going to continue to gamble here with the Broncos defense. And the more that we keep going through the season, Bo Nix is starting to become better. I think he was definitely dealing with some sophomore slump here. When the target puts on your back, when you have that tape on the line there, teams start to game plan for you. I think that's played a bit of a factor to the offensive struggles here of the Broncos. But if they can make this an ugly game, they might be able to steal one here, guys. So I'm going to go ahead, even though the Packers, I feel like this could still be a bit of a coin flip. And although the Packers do have more potential than other teams that the Broncos have faced, where you just thought, oh, this offense is way too much, Bo Nix isn't going to do enough to be able to beat this team. I still think that this is still going to be a closer game than people think. Probably a race to 24 on this one. I'm going to give it to the Broncos 24-17. Coming away with an awesome win in a defensive classic coming up at 425. Moving on to the Lions versus the Rams. Ooh-wee. We got Matthew Stafford playing his old team again, and I think the last time they played was in the playoffs, and the Lions got the better of them and eliminated them, right? So Matthew Stafford is having a heck of a season here. The Rams defense is a great unit. That interior pass rush is something else, okay? They have a lot of studs on that D-line. They have a pretty competent secondary. And on top of the fact, they have one of the best offenses in football, okay? Let's be real. Puka Nacua is just unbelievable. Okay. Some people wanted to give, some whatevers, give him some flack for live streaming in the locker room after the game, even when his teammates were telling him to cut it out. But you know what? He's a younger generation kid. I'm not going to put any of that into factor for me. Okay. Because this offense is dangerous. Okay. Now we're moving in against a team that is hobbled to say the least. Okay. Their defense is atrocious right now when it comes to realizing that they have to play so many backups and third stringers in here because there's people on IR. They've lost Terrion Arnold for the rest of the season. Branches, I think, is going to be out. Kirby Joseph might even be done for the season. Good riddance. That guy is a piece of garbage. Mr. ACL freaking bandit there. Mr. Hip Tackle extraordinaire. Okay? Piece of garbage individual there, but thank goodness he's not going to be in there. Hopefully we won't see Puka Nacua go down with an ACL due to a hip tackle from that loser. But let's be real. It's going to be offense on offense, and defense is just going to be picked apart here by this defense, by this Lions. This Lions defense is going to get picked apart by this Rams offense. They don't have the pass rush. I know they're going to say, "Oh, look at us. We couldn't do anything in the pass rush for how many games in a row, and then all of a sudden we came alive. Woohoo! Look at us. We're back." Did you forget who you guys were playing? Come on now. Nobody thought the Cowboys were good, except for the bandwagoners and the delusional ones on First Take and on the Herd, right? This is not going to go down that way. This is going to be a bad game for the Lions. They're going to get spanked all up and down this team, all up and down this field. The Rams are just going to have their way with them. They just don't have the personnel to cover Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua. They just don't have it in them, okay? And we know that Sean McVay is a wily vet. And since that playoff loss to the Lions, he is got that in the back of his mind. He just wants to prove that he has the better team all along. We've already known Sean McVay. Let's be real. We all know that the Lions are the rerun kings. They ain't do nothing special. They think they're really good. They can't push through the ceiling, and they always just collapse, right? Collapse is incoming. The locker room's going to be broken next year, and then they're going to be back on the last place schedule. So nothing new for us NFC North fans. We know what they are. Mediocre at best. Let's go, Rams. We're going to take the Rams here in a big win. I'm going to say it's going to be at least a 2-score game. I'm probably going to say 14 points here. I just do not believe that this Lions defense has anything against the Rams. Moving on to the Saints-Panthers in a divisional matchup here. Ooh, this is going to be a bit of an interesting game. Can Tyler Shuck and the Saints upset the Panthers? Maybe. Absolutely. If anybody has the history and the knowledge on how to play against the Panthers, it's a divisional opponent, right? So it's going to be a little bit closer of a game, but I just have to gamble a little bit here. I think this is a bit more closer to a coin flip than people give credit. I think it's a 55% for the Panthers, 45% of the Saints. I'm going to give them the credit they deserve, okay? I've been saying, even since when Spencer Rattler was the starting quarterback, I was like, this team isn't like a bottom of the barrel team. They're just a middle of the pack team. They're just a middle of the pack team that is just got a lot of things to tweak. And once things start going right, they have the potential to kind of steal some games here and there. And they're a much better team than people give credit. But I'm still going to take the Panthers here in an interesting win. I think Rico Dowdle is going to be running havoc. I think he's going to get a ton of all-purpose yards. And I think Bryce Young, snap finger famous. Bryce Young, I think he's going to have a great game. I don't think he's going to be all-time 400 yards or anything like that, a career best game, but I think he's going to have a great game. You know, somewhere in the range of like 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 1 sack, something like that, pass rating of like 102 or some bullshit like that. That's what I see here. And the Saints doing a very valiant job of keeping up with the Panthers, but the Panthers are just going to run away with it in the second half, guys. Mark my words, even though they're at home, I think the Panthers still have the upside here. Moving on to Colts Seahawks. Ooh, we had a moment of silence last week on the reaction game, man. Unbelievable. Sucks to be the Colts fan base right now, man. Hitching all their hopes and dreams on Daniel Jones, thinking that he is the greatest quarterback to ever suit up in a Colts uniform. How disrespectful. This is what you get. This is the bad karma that you guys freaking imposed on yourself with this Indiana Jones garbage, okay? You guys have Peyton Manning in your history, okay? You guys have Andrew Luck. Far better quarterbacks than Daniel Jones will ever be. Let's be real. As good as Daniel Jones could potentially be, and maybe after his reclamation project, he might be an above-average quarterback and maybe a quarterback that you might be able to win in the playoffs. But he's just nowhere near those two guys. I would take right now, today, Andrew Luck in whatever state that he's in over Daniel Jones. I don't care. Even if he can only be out there, every other drive because he just can't handle, the cardio. I know that in the every other drive that he plays or every 2 drives that he plays, he's going to do way more overall than Daniel Jones does. That's how much I love Andrew Luck. Okay? But we got old man Rivers now. Ooh, he might be starting this year. Everything is leaning towards that he might give it a go, coming off of a 5-year retirement here. But Phillip Rivers, if anybody can do it, okay, this guy can do it. He's a big quarterback, okay, so he's not like a small guy that one bad hit or something like that is just going to put him out the game. He can take, he's durable, okay? He can take some hits. And the boy can throw the ball. Okay, he can put up some flashy stats from here and there. But am I going to expect, the highest elite version of Phillip Rivers that we've ever seen? Or are we going to see the worst version of him? No, I don't think so. I don't think we're going to see either one, to be honest. I think we're going to see something slightly above his average. So, competent. Maybe a little bit better than their rookie that's dealing with a knee injury, right? So, I think this game is a fun game on paper, but in reality, I think these Seahawks, Sam Darnold, JSN, this defense is just going to put too much on these Colts for them to be able to overcome. And if Phillip Rivers wins, oh my goodness, I am going to be super, super happy for that, okay? Because this is definitely a game that Sam Darnold should have zero pressure on, okay? Sam Darnold, if you're listening, don't worry, okay, buddy? If the second you start getting in your head and you start worrying, that's when you suck. So put all that BS out of your head You're a better quarterback than that, okay? This is a zero to no impact regular season game, stress-free. You should be putting up like 3 or 4 touchdowns, putting up like 350 plus yards, okay? Coming up with like a close to perfect passer rating. That's what I expect from you, Sam Darnold. That's why I'm picking the Seahawks to win by at least 10 points, if not more. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. I think everybody's picking the Seahawks. Let's be real. Moving on to the Titans and 49ers. The Titans came up with a pretty decent game last week, against a really, really good defense against the Browns. And they went and stole one, from Shedeur Sanders. And it was a fun game. Incredible for both franchises, because I think both franchises started getting some hope. And that's more important, because I've been saying I really want Cam Moore to succeed. I really want Shedeur Sanders to succeed, or at the very least, both of them getting a full fair shot so we can see what they got, ladies and gentlemen. I want to see what these new generation quarterbacks do for the NFL going forward. And they need to get their shot. They need to be allowed to grow. They need to be allowed to be flustered and make mistakes so they can become the players that they are destined to be, okay? Whether that's a bust or an all-time player. Whatever that is in between. Let them freaking cook, boys. But they got a tall task this week. The Titans have a tall task. They're facing the 49ers, the team that is definitely forged in fire, guys. Let's be real here. Over the last 4, 5, 6 years, whatever you want to call it, they have faced just about every single form of adversity that a team could face. They've missed their quarterback. They've missed their running back. They've missed literally just about everything. And on top of that, they've faced bad beats in the playoffs. They've messed up on situational football. Literally every form of adversity the 49ers have faced. But you know what? This year, they have proved that it does not matter what adversity comes their way. They know how to handle it. With the experience that they have definitely proven that you make this an ugly game, we got you. You make this an easy game for us, we got you. Any which way this falls apart or falls into place, 49ers have the ability to come on top. Okay? I know the record isn't as sterling as others, but that's what happens when you're constantly fighting adversity. You can't win every single one, no matter if you know what you need to do to succeed. That's why they've lost a couple games. But this is the type of situation, this is the type of game where they can take control early and put this team away. A race to 21. I'm going to call it 21-12 here. Moving on to the next game of the weekend. We got Sunday Night Football, ladies and gentlemen. My Minnesota Vikings coming up against the dumpster fire Dallas Cowboys. What are we to expect? Let's be real, okay? We have one of the best defenses all alongside a struggling developing team with a rookie quarterback, essentially. And then you got a Cowboys offense, which is arguably one of the better ones in the league. Definitely above average. Not all-time, not top tier, above average. They can create shootouts, but they have a garbage defense. And when we watch the Cowboys play good defensive teams, like against the Cardinals, with have a wily defense, against the Broncos, they get absolutely smacked around like nobody's business, okay? So as a result, I think this is going to be a lot closer than people give credit. I don't think this is going to be a shootout. I don't think the Cowboys are going to run away with this. Not even close. Okay? And now that my Minnesota Vikings are starting to, like I've been saying, shut the hell up, guys. Let these guys figure it out. Let them cook. We don't need all these freaking extra cooks in the kitchen, guys. They got hired. The coaching staff got hired to figure this out. The team got put together. They're going to be fine. I'll let them figure it out. And last week, they put belt to ass to these Commanders in a nice tune-up game. Like I said, it was going to be like, this is a really good matchup for us because they're going to be slightly above average. They're going to give us enough of a test so that we can really tune up nice and fine. Our offense came alive here. J.J. McCarthy proving doubters wrong again with his best career game. 127 passer rating, 168 yards, 3 touchdowns. No interceptions. Now, am I going to say that the Minnesota Vikings are going to win out and they're going to sneak in the playoffs? No. I'm not going to say that either. I just know that every single game that we play, we have the ability to stay in it. And we've proven that every single game. You go back and look at the majority of our losses, they're one-score games. And when you go back and look at that last quarter, we're trying to make a comeback that we just couldn't complete, right? But this is a different animal here. We got a dumpster fire, one of these so-called good defenses. No, you guys, because you guys bring in Quinnen Williams and Ben Logan, you turn your 32nd ranked defense up to like a 20th ranked defense. You think that's going to do anything? Yeah, you might be able to come away with a little bit of here and there, but that's not going to be enough, okay? I think it's going to be a closer game. I think it's going to be a race to 24, and I'm going to call it here, guys, 24-17, Minnesota Vikings, putting a freaking beat down on these Cowboys defensively. This Dak Prescott is going to be flustered all freaking game. It's going to be a good one, guys. Keep an eye out on this one. Moving on to Monday Night Football, we got the Dolphins versus the Steelers. Ooh, this is definitely one of those games where you might be tempted to pick the Dolphins in an upset here just because of how stable or consistent the Dolphins offense has been, okay? Tua's pretty decent. You know, he's not all-time. He's not like that 70-point game season where he was at his best, right? He's not that, but he's not also terrible with one of his worst seasons, okay? He's somewhere in the middle, maybe slightly above average. He's got Devin Achane. You know, he's a great running back. They've got a good rushing attack. And he's got Tyreek Hill's out for Jalen Waddle, right? A great receiver, borderline number one receiver, having to put on the cape as the number one receiver. And he's been doing pretty decent at times here. So the hype might lead you to think, oh, this is the one of the upsets to pick. But I'm going to continue to pick based on the probabilities here. I think the Steelers just might have the edge here. They're just a slightly better team. They've had better opponents. And even though they don't have the record to show it, I think they're a slightly better team than the Dolphins. Than more than just a one win in comparison in their records, right? I think the Steelers are closer to a 10-win team than the Dolphins are, okay? If that makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the Steelers here. I think Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, that incredible jumbo package that they like to come away with, I think it's going to put a lot of different looks and pressures on the Dolphins defense, which is atrocious, okay? And I think the Steelers are going to just be able to do what they do to some of these bad teams. Just bully them around and take over and make it one of those type of games like we saw last week against a terrible team in the Ravens. But there you guys have it. Those are the week 15 picks, guys. And let's move on. We got to get talking about these power rankings. So now let's switch it up here. Let me do this so we can no, I don't want to put the buy screen up. I'm going to put the buy screen up here for a little bit, guys. Just so we can go, so I can cut it up. I want to do the live. Hold on. We got the intro kicking back in, but let's get back into it, guys. We need to address the power rankings here, okay, guys? We need to do some mad recalculations. One, we're bringing the Jaguars down. We're bringing these down. Unfortunately, we're bringing them down. We're bringing here. No, they're in the wrong tier. We need to bring them into the recalculation tier here. I think these teams are pretty darn good there. Anything up here? No, I think we can do this. I'm okay with putting these two teams ahead of my Vikings. Let's put the Bengals right behind us. Let's put the Texans. You know what? The Texans got to be recalculated. All right. Here we go. So we got to figure out these top 12 teams. I like to go with the top 12 teams for my power rankings because it kind of gives you an insight of the two teams that I think that are just nipping at the butt of the top 10 here. So we got the 9 teams here. I think the Lions can be 10 here. See, this is why I didn't put the Bears higher. Everybody wanted to be like, oh, the Bears, the Bears. I'm like, yeah, but they're playing on a last place schedule and they played nobody good. Okay, so we're gonna flip them with Green Bay. I'm gonna go ahead and put the Broncos in third. I think LA is gonna stay right here. I think the Patriots just deserve it. I just that's the way I feel. I know we could easily flip these two teams back and forth, but no, we're not going to do that. We're going to bring the Chargers in the top 12, and we're going to bring the Texans in the top 12. Now, let's see. I don't mind that there. I'm going to put the Eagles down here. I'm going to put the Colts right ahead of them, just to spite those Eagles. There we go. So I think the mid-tier, close enough. Nothing special. All middle of the pack teams. I think anybody can give me an argument to be at the top of this list, and I wouldn't oppose. So we're just going to keep them like that. And everybody on the bottom of the barrel can be down at the bottom of the barrel where they belong. Because I don't think any of these teams have done anything. Maybe we'll put the Raiders here instead. Just because they have done a little bit more in mine and because I like their potential. But the middle of the pack is definitely where it's at. I'm okay with these three. These three are all can be interchangeable here, but let's look at these teams right here. For Green Bay's 5, because we really don't know who they are. Bills are definitely better than the Bears. Ooh, if the Bears and the 49ers were to play right now, who would I pick? I would pick the 49ers. If the Bears and the Jaguars, they're basically the same team, I would pick them. This would be a coin flip. Half the time I'd pick the Jags, half the time I'd pick the Bears. So that's going to stay the same. And these two teams are just better than the Lions, let's be real. And then the Chargers and the Texans. Can the Chargers or the Texans dethrone these Lions from the 10th spot? Let me think about this. Yes. And this is why. Because if I were to put the Chargers up against the Lions today, the Chargers win. I don't care. I don't care that Joe Alt is out. That offense is too good. That defense ain't stopping nobody. Okay? If I look at the Texans, that defense is too good. We know what Jared Goff does when he plays a good defense. Can I point you guys to when my Vikings played them? When they're at the height of their hype? Now, the thing is that because when that Detroit offense comes out there, are they going to be muted? And is it going to be enough for the Texans to take the win? I think coin flip, I think that goes to the Texans just because of the defensive prowess. Defense wins championships. So I'm going to do that. Yeah, let's do that right here. All right, so let's quickly recap. We got the Patriots at number 1, coming in with a solid performance all year round. They are a top-tier team. They have definitely put some good wins on paper against great teams where people didn't even give them a chance to win. They've come away with it, okay? They also have some suspect losses here and there, but that's okay. It's okay. Young teams are supposed to make mistakes. Then we got the LA Rams that are just banging on all cylinders, guys. Let's be real here. They are one of the best top 2 teams in the league. The top 4 teams, the top 3 teams in my book are interchangeable. So I'm okay with any one of these 4 teams in the top. I think anybody can give me an argument for these top 4 teams to be the best team in the league, okay? Broncos, the thing that gets me with the Broncos is I just don't know if they can accomplish what they've been accomplishing here in playoff meaningful football. I think that the way that they've been winning games is actually a detriment to the playoffs, because in the playoffs, teams don't let you get back into it for the most part. They kind of run away with it, and then they just drown you out because everybody's just more of a well-balanced team. There's less to capitalize on every good playoff team, right? Outside of the wild card, of course. Wild card teams are usually flawed, right? And then the Seahawks, the same reason, right? The Seahawks have done great. They've had a couple bad losses here, but like I said, I wouldn't put them ahead of the Rams, and I wouldn't put them ahead of the Patriots. And it's basically a coin flip between the Broncos and the Seahawks for me. But I'm going to give a little bit of love to the Broncos because I haven't been giving them love all season. I've been keeping them low on my power rankings because I just wasn't a believer. But it's just getting too deep in the season now, and they just have too many wins for me to disregard it any longer. The Green Bay Packers are holding my number 5 spot, the spot that I like to reserve for the team that I just don't know. Are they a top 5 team? Are they a bottom 5 team? Do I want to be embarrassed and put them up here in the top and then have them lose really bad and then go, oh, wow, I thought the Patriots or the Packers were good? They're just not that team. But there you guys have it here. I got a customer call here. I actually have to go. I'm sorry for cutting this short, guys, but I love every single one of you guys. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. I will catch you guys on the next one.